On November 29th, 2012, a game called Farcry 3 was released to critical acclaim, stating that this game was generation-defining, Skyrim with guns, and so much more. I wanted to put this game to the test all these years later to really see if this game lived up to the hype. Now, before anything, I want to iterate that this video will spoil literally everything in the game, start to finish. If you haven't played this game and want to soon, please turn away now and come back later. Unless you don't care, then I guess stay. In this video, I'll be going over these things. Story mostly, gameplay, and as we talk about these said things, I'll be critiquing them as we go along, giving my own opinion as to what I think about the game. And if you disagree with me, that's fine, but remember that this is my opinion. If you get mad over this, then I suggest you just chill out, drink some water, get some popcorn, and just listen to what I have to say. And without further ado, let's get this started. I also want to mention too, really quickly, I recorded all of this with like 2 weeks worth of time, so if my voice sounds different between like the first section and the last section, it's because of that. But yeah, anyway, let's just go on. In the story of Far Cry 3, we start out, oddly enough, with a loading screen setting the tone for the rest of the game, and another moment went down Alice after it, and everyone's considering how in the world she was to get out again. For anyone who has played Far Cry 3 before will know exactly what it means in regards to our protagonist Jason Brody being shoved into a world of harm with no idea how to get out. Anyways, the game actually starts out by giving you a montage, and typically in media such as film, starting out with a montage is risky. Most of the time within my study in university was frowned upon, yet in Far Cry 3, I don't mind it too much. If you were to play through this montage in game, I feel like it would take too much time. It would clog the game for an extra hour or two, especially since the montage covers a lot in a short time frame. Regardless, after going through the montage of the group of friends having fun, the camera zooms out to see our antagonist of the game, Voss, officially known as one of the best villains ever established in video games, an award that the series continues to chase but ultimately fails in every new iteration. Just sad to see. He talks to us while we're caged in what seems to be a prison camp for the sole purpose of holding ransom. The reason I think this is because Voss tells us that Jason and Grant's parents are going to have to pay a lot of money in order to get the characters back home. Voss goes as far as to say that he likes a lot of money. So as we know now, Voss is a crazy motherfucker who is driven by money and other things that are yet to be revealed. And I like this. And to establish Voss's goals early on is a good thing. A lot of the time, games don't give us a definite reason as to why the antagonist is being a dickhead. It's either never said or a bullshit reason was given. Here, the money excuse is believable, given the circumstances Grant and Jason are under. Grant starts making noises trying to talk or taunt Voss. During this moment, the game shows you how batshit crazy Voss is. And let me play the cutscene out.
I'm sorry, what did you say? What did you say? Do you want me to slice you open like I did your friend? Shut the fuck up! Okay? I'm the one with the fucking dick. Look at me. Look me in the fucking eye. Hey! You fuck! Look me in the eye! You're my bitch. I rule this fucking kingdom. Shut the fuck up, or you die. What is it, Jason? Jason, what is it? Why aren't you laughing now like you did up there? What, is this not fun anymore? Have I failed to entertain you?
Afterwards, you see that there's someone who is higher up than Voss. It's going to be important later. Anyways, Grant finds a way to get out of his binds and walks over to Jason. Tells Jason to call over the guards that he can subdue. After this, essentially the tutorials begin, prioritizing stealth. I mean, the tutorial's fine. Nothing is really special about it. Played games long enough to just literally play most tutorials known to man. They all aren't anything special, really. During this time, though, I started to realize that there was an input delay with the controller to the game. This is a fucking huge issue throughout the game, to the point that sometimes it became unbearable. And I'll go over this a bit more during the middle of the critique where I dive into gameplay and controls. It's where I most feel comfortable talking about such things. But all you should know now is the game is fundamentally broken from a gunplay standpoint. During the whole escaping from the camp section, we really only did just that without much dialogue besides Jason freaking out and Grant trying to console him. Anyways, once we get out of the camp, Grant gets shot in the neck, killing him, and Voss tells us that we need to run and will give us 30 seconds to do so, except he didn't, which I found funny. It was more like 5 seconds before his men start shooting. I don't know if this was a correlation to his character being batshit crazy or if it was bad writing mixed with gameplay mechanics to make it feel like you're actually running away for your life, or I just misread something. Either way, it isn't a big deal. Afterwards, we tumble and and fall along the way, and for some reason we get knocked out for like 3 seconds. I guess they just did this for cinematic purposes or whatever. Regardless, we fall in some water, and after some time, Jason begins to pass out. And while this is happening, the screen begins to fade and the title screen appears, fully starting the game. Jason begins to hear voices before he wakes up. We get introduced to a character that is taking care of us and also gave us a sick tat. Jason begins to reach for the knife in order to defend himself, but the character pulls a machete on him, telling him that Jason can of course kill him, but while in that act, Jason will also get killed. I don't think that's how murder works though. Most of the time, the person that does the killing will survive because the other person's dead. I mean, this is for dramatic purposes, but still it was a weird place and piece of dialogue. The character starts to laugh and gives us his machete in his name. Dennis. Dennis's introduction is okay, I guess. It wasn't anything special or as good as Voss's introduction, but nonetheless, it doesn't really matter. Dennis mentions the heron, the shark, and the spider, essentially saying the 3 trees of skill upgrades that we will get into later in the critique. Jason tells Dennis that his brother was killed and that he needs to find his other friends. And after Jason asks the question of if Dennis will help, Dennis responds with that we can only help ourselves. He's just gonna free us, whatever that means. This was a weird ass response considering he essentially said no, he wasn't gonna help us, but he's gonna help us setting ourselves free. I don't know, the writing's decent so far, but there's some things that raise eyebrows. Anyways, to summarize this way too long of a cutscene, Dennis says that he helped us off the beach and welcomes us to a place called Amanaki Village. Hopefully I said that right. Occupied by people who are called the Rakyat. He gives us money in order to buy our first gun, the M1911. And after this, we get sent on a mission that every fucking Ubisoft game has. Radio towers. And if you don't know, Ubisoft puts towers of some sort in their video games, in which if you climb to the top and press a button, a chunk of the map will be revealed, as well as giving you some sort of reward. In 2022, this shit is so old, so going back and doing it again is such a slog, but at least you get free weapons out of it. Afterwards, the game introduces you to your map and how to navigate the open world, and as well as teach you how to hunt and gather resources. And see, I would like this part of the game normally, but due to horrendous gunplay, it's not fun in regards to hunting animals. I will get into that later. This section's also teaches skill points, etc. Not a big deal. Regardless, we get a call from our cell phone. I have no idea when or where we got this from, but fine, I guess. The person on the phone says they are driving to an outpost near the village from before, and that they have one of our friends with them. Jason responds like a fucking idiot, and the person freaks out and hangs up. After this, we go on the longest car ride possible with Dennis, and I hate these sequences in games when you're in the passenger seat on a ride and have to sit through non-important dialogue that has to do with liberating fucking camps. Why can't you just let the player drive the car while listening to the conversation? I get it, multitasking is hard in a game like this, but nonetheless, I still think it's manageable. Excuse me. The only game I can let this slide with is Red Dead Redemption because you're tightly connected with all of the characters. Therefore, you're always interested in what they have to say. The problem with this game is the story doesn't take the forefront. It's the gameplay. So doing this sitting in the passenger seat isn't fun at all. It's essentially a glorified loading screen if you think about it. Anyways, we get to the camp and we have the choice to do the stealth-like or going guns blazing. And I tried going stealth, but at the end of the day, I suck at it, so I went in shooting and shit. I sometimes found, though, that you don't have to kill everyone in the camp, only like a few, and then a mini cutscene will play. It's odd. I don't even know. I guess it'll have to do. After we clear the camp, Jason starts to freak out and yell to Lisa that everything's gonna be okay and that everyone in the camp is gone. The problem is that she actually isn't there. It can never be that easy, right? And over the radio, you can hear a person ask what had happened at the outpost, asking where their American prisoners at. Another person on the radio confirmed that she had escaped and went to the west side of the island. And we walk out of the building and we're greeted with allies telling us that we're worthy of the tatau. The tatau is basically just a tattoo in the game that will get bigger as you progress through story and unlocking skills through the skill tree. I think this is pretty cool. It gives a visual feedback in how powerful and deadly Jason is becoming, and I wish more games had a system like this. These allies also say that we're worthy to walk the path of the warrior, and we'll find out what that means later in the story. Dennis walks up to us and says that they have found one of our friends at a colonist's house. And I wish the writers would tell us how Dennis found out that our friend was there. It's just very jarring to hear all of this all of a sudden. Oh well, it's not much of a big deal. His name's Dr. Earnhardt, and Dennis reassures us that it's safe to go there. When we get to Dr. Earnhardt's house, we go into the greenhouse, and you'll see a whole bunch of psychedelics everywhere, and at this point, there's a light in my head to not trust this guy. I don't know why, but when I was playing this, that's all I thought. Regardless, he greets us and asks us if we like anything we see and proceeds to tell us what shrooms he likes the best. Jason gets right to the point and tells the doctor that Dennis told him he was housing one of his friends, and he gets confused and thinks we're talking about his shrooms. I thought this part was funny. I don't know why, but seeing people go crazy about psychedelics, shrooms, whatever, sets off a laugh in me. Jason questions what he means, but then the doctor now understands what he means and states that Daisy is the one who he's housing and tells us that she's of course in the house. We go into the house and see Daisy, and she's out like a baby and has a fever, but the doctor says that when he found her, she had cuts all over her arm and she ran through a field of poisonous trees. It's revealed that the medicine's out that he was curing her with, I guess, like an antidote, and sends us into a cave where we can find a plant that can start the antidote since he doesn't have any left. And guess what that medicine is? It's shrooms, baby. We went into the cave, and let me tell you, this was the best thing in the game yet. Jason starts to trip balls up in that cave, and to the point where he sees shit that isn't there. Eventually, though, he does find the shrooms the doctor needs, and we head back up to the house. When we make it to fresh air, it is dark, meaning that we have been in that cave for a while. Even Jason comments on this. We get to the doctor, and he starts rambling on about his batch of shrooms again, and he tells us that Daisy's awake and that it's best if we go see her. But before we go, we gave him the shrooms. When we get to Daisy, she's surprised to see us, obviously. She tells us that we don't have to worry about the doctor. He's completely harmless, I guess. I don't really believe this yet, but sure, I'll take your word for it at the moment. And during this whole cutscene, though, the most notebook, Twilight, teenager drama movie-ass music was playing.
Jason, what's wrong? Grant,
I was fucking laughing out loud when this happened, during the scene. Daisy asks what's wrong. We broke the news about Grant because he got shot, and Jason and Daisy both have a moment mourning him, which was sweet. And honestly, was kind of corny as fuck with the music, but regardless, I was still glued to the screen. I don't know if this was told before the cutscene though, but I guess Daisy and Grant are dating. That's the vibe I got off. I mean, I don't know. Regardless, it's not a big deal, but I don't know where Daisy is very concerned about us and our brother, and it's very, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Thought out, maybe, that Daisy is dating him. I don't know why I'm too glued to this. Let's just carry on. But out of nowhere, after all of this, Daisy says this line.
Jason, whoever did this, whoever killed Grant, deserves to die.
And to be honest, this took me out of the scene. Ubisoft meant this to be a badass moment, but it just comes off as cringe. Before this moment, Daisy seemed innocent and clueless, so why would she say that? Maybe grief, but still it seems off. We then ask the doctor if we could bring the rest of our friends to his property after we find them. He's hesitant. But then after, Daisy chimes in and he agrees and calls her Agnes. And this confirms that the man has some trauma, and Daisy reminds him of the person called Agnes, I guess. But anyways, we make our way out of the house, and shortly after we get a call from Dennis, and he tells us there are some satellite dishes for communication on top of the Medusa, which is a boat that's beached. And he suggests that we go into the comm room and listen to the signal that's given off. This does mean, though, that there are a bunch of pirates nearby. Of course, like I said, we get greeted by a shit ton of pirates at the Medusa. We have to kill and loot some radio operators and get into the comm room. And once we get into the comm room and listen in on the conversation, it's revealed that once the money from the parents of our friends show up, they'll sell all of our friends on the black market for trafficking regardless. Jesus Christ, this game is dark as fuck. And after the conversation ends, someone triggers the alarm at the Medusa, and I have no idea who did this because I killed everyone there, but the only reason they did this was so the player can go up against a shit ton of pirates, but they weren't hard. It's just an annoying kind of gameplay mechanic that they use all the time. But shortly after, Dennis calls us and says that we need to hurry over to Amanaki village. Once we get there, Dennis tells us that Voss is planning an attack on the village, and Jason tells Dennis that his friends are also in trouble. This is setting the stage for what the headspace of Jason is, going between helping the people or helping his friends. And I like this duality, and it makes you think on what decision you want to make. Jason says that Voss has taken his friends to somewhere called PC, and they're going to be held for ransom. Dennis says that it's a good thing, and it means means that because of this, we have time in order to, of course, help Dennis. But time for what? I mean, the friends are in danger. At any time, they can be killed. So there is no time. So at that moment, I didn't like Dennis as a character. He's very self-centered, and it feels like he's using Jason for dirty work. And this goes the same for a lot of the characters around him and in the game that are later going to be introduced. And it's bad because eventually, once you get to the ending of the game, you're presented with two choices for two different endings. And when you don't like certain characters, one of the endings is going to be an easy choice. Now, they didn't do a good job on these side characters, but regardless, Jason agrees to do so. So now, Jason agrees with Dennis and the rock yacht, but the player doesn't agree with both of them, at least not me. And this dichotomy isn't something you want in a game. But we get to the camp, kill all the pirates, and then blow the shit up. Mission done. Find out that the PC means Pirates Cove, and it's a prison of some sort. Fought our way through the camp and made our way to the prison. And once we get there, we find out that no one's there, but a video is playing, and it's Lisa. It looks like she's being mentally tortured, I guess. And at this point, we know that Voss is playing with Jason. He knew that Jason was going to be over there. The relationship between the protagonist and the antagonist, which is Voss, is great so far in Far Cry 3. Voss is an extremely good villain, and Jason is a complicated character trying to wrap his head around what decisions he has to make in choosing either revenge or friends. And overall, this scene is just sickening and saddening at the same time. Feel for Lisa and Jason. Anyways, once we move forward, our ass gets knocked out by some random ass pirate. And this shit is like a Call of Duty cutscene with a soldier coming out of nowhere to knock you out. And I don't like it. I never will. Just find a different way to bring the character to a different location within the game. This shit happens so much in media. But we wake up with Voss pouring some gasoline on us, planning to set us on fire. Voss then asks us how we got the tatau and freaks the fuck out. He then asks if his sister did it. She will be talked about later, don't worry. But he gets offended, of course, and has one of his episodes again, like always. Continues to try and intimidate us by saying he'll kill his sister like he did with our brother. It's fucked up. But afterwards, there's an exposition dump where Voss reveals that he used to care about his family and that the first time he ever killed was for his sister. Yet, he says that wasn't enough for her. And I love this mystery and setup between two characters, and it made me excited to see who Citra was and to find out her side of the story. I'm also glad that Citra hasn't been introduced yet. If they had done it sooner, it would have been way too early. But later, he sets the place on fire, and it's our job to try and save Lisa. The other friend gets taken away during the cutscene, and we don't know where he is afterwards. Once we get out of the building, we find a conveniently placed car, and we get the fuck out of Dodge while Lisa freaks out and Jason shoots at pirates. We get away. Jason gets excited as if he's having fun, showing his personality change, which Lisa notices and comments on why he thinks it's fun. She reveals that they took Oliver to a bunker, and she isn't sure where Keith or Daisy is, but we later tell her that Daisy's fine, and we took her to a safe place at Dr. Earnhardt's house. Jason asks about his younger brother Riley, but she says that she has no idea where he is, or Grant for that matter, and yikes, that is going to be a great conversation about Grant, and they do so right after. And of course, says that Grant's dead. For some reason, Lisa doesn't have a bad reaction to it. I mean, it's only a hug. Like, what the fuck? At least make the character seem like she cares more than she does. Anyways, we take her to Daisy, and there's a cute reunion between them, and I guess that Daisy's been working on a boat, showing how we're gonna get off the island. We do this fucking odd task of just diving into the water, find the thing that powers the boat, and then bring it back to her, and that's it. It's just weird how they implemented these missions. When we meet with Lisa right afterwards, there's just some cute dialogue. Nothing too special. And then they talk about a plan of Jason finding everyone while Lisa helps out with the boat. And when we get out of the cave, Dennis calls us and tells us that we're ready to meet Citra, the leader of the rock yacht. We get to the temple to meet Citra, but before that, Dennis comes out and talks to us. He tells us that we need to stay in plain view and not make any sudden moves. I guess we're doing this because she's deadly. Maybe she doesn't take kindly to strangers. Regardless, we follow Dennis to Citra. And when we finally meet her, goddamn, Lord have mercy. She asks us to see our arm that has the tatau. Anyways, Jason, of course, makes some jokes while some dudes are pointing guns to his face as always, and even Citra comments on this, and I love it. She tells us that she'll cut off our tatau and give it back to us, playing it off as if she were joking. Damn. Okay, so this is her character. I like it. Acting like a boss-ass bitch who will get what she wants when she wants. Though she does come off as a bit manipulative for some reason. I guess it's just a gut feeling while playing the game. We then tell her why we're here, explaining that we want to kill Voss and save our friends. She gets mad for some reason, saying she isn't going to give us an army just because of those few reasons. And I have a problem with this. She obviously is fighting the pirates, which is under the control of Voss and Hoyt. Killing Voss will be a huge goal of theirs, so why not lend an army? This was a case of bad writing here, and regardless, she pretty much roasts us during this conversation. Shortly after, she gets fed up, kicks us out of the courtyard. For some reason, though, Jason feels the need to say that the pirates took his brother, and she listens to this and turns around. What the fuck? Killing Voss would be a better excuse as to why Jason needs an army, not that his brother's been kidnapped. This scene is so fucking ass backwards. Citra says to bring her something that has been lost and to drink some hallucinogenic, and we drink it and go on a huge fucking trip, revealing that we need to find a guy that is dressed in white, a guy who's beating the shit out of one of our friends, find another dude who seems to have another friend of ours, and most importantly, find an ancient blade of some sort. Regardless, we retell the story to Dennis, and afterwards we go on our way. We go off to find the man in white first. We find ourselves at a poker game in order to scout out the bar where the man in white usually spends his time, I assume. When we sit down, we see the man walk in to have a drink. We overhear our fellow poker players talking about a man called Snow White. And I thought they were talking about the man we were targeting, but they're actually talking about us. And of course, later in the game, it becomes even more clear that you're Snow White, considering enemies will shout it out during combat. But during this conversation, specifically, the poker players state that he had escaped to Voss's camp. Obviously, that was us. The man in white eventually comes up to us and tells us that we had made a nice play and walks off, which leads into a tailing mission. And I usually hate these considering they're in every Ubisoft game, but this one wasn't bad. It was just me hiding behind shit the whole time. We get to this little hideout, but over the intercom in his house, he tells us that we have 10 seconds to tell him who we are, or else he will detonate some C4. And I don't think he understands the firepower of C4. That shit will blow up the entire house, taking himself out along with Jason. Unless he doesn't give a shit, it was a bad plan that he had. Anyways, it's revealed that this man is very much a jokester and doesn't take himself seriously, which is a breath of fresh air in the game. We need someone for comedic relief once in a while, and he literally goes on a tangent about America and being a patriot. It's amazing, and I'll let the dialogue play out.
Jason Brody!
Really?
Yes!
So you're Snow White.
Yes or no? Which one gets me blown up?
Pragmatist. Promising. But do you consider yourself a patriot, Mr. Brody? Thing is, the real patriot doesn't just put his hand on his heart while holding a hot dog at the ball game. That's a gosh darn cakewalk, pardon my French. The real patriot suckles at the teat of Lady Liberty. Upon hearing of the death of a brother at war, the real patriot asks, "Did we win?" And then rejoices at the pronouncement of victory. So, are you a real patriot or one of those Walt Whitman hippies who cries when the jean store runs out of pocket squares?
A real patriot.
Bingo. That's what I like to hear.
We go downstairs and introduce ourselves. Jason pops the question on if this guy's a spy, and of course he is. His name is Agent Willis. Jason is relieved, saying that he could use the help of a military and or government, but Willis denies this and says he isn't embedded with the CIA, yet he isn't alone on the island but can't talk to us about it. He continues to put his dick on the table and bring out a fucking flamethrower, bro, taking us into the most well-known Farcry mission to ever exist. The mission consists of burning down a ganja farm and taking care of all the pirates that are chilling there. We also have to destroy a boat that's on the dock there, and once we do this and succeed, Willis will then get some more information on our friend and their whereabouts. He then goes on just to make jokes and shit. And once we get to the Banyan field, we light the whole fucking thing on fire while some dope-ass reggae dubstep type beat is playing. The shit was lit. I'll let some of it play. I'll get hit with the copyright strike, but oh well.
Holy fuck, this is awesome!
We get back to Agent Willis, and Jason says what we were all thinking.
I love the flamethrower.
Anyways, we hear a recording of Hoyt talking about Snow White, which is us. Agent Willis proceeds to show pictures of things while at the same time in the recording, Voss is saying that he doesn't give a fuck about us. And clearly he does though. Man is a fucking liar. Voss goes on to talk about how Citra is inking us up, talking about her putting the towel on us, and clearly he's upset about this because of reasons. My idea at the time was that maybe she did the same to Voss, claiming that he had what it took to become a warrior and then betrayed him. I'm not sure, but there is some mystery here that I love. And out of nowhere, Hoyt has a meltdown and tells Voss that he doesn't care, and that it is because of him that Voss isn't dead. Now we see what this relationship is like. Hoyt doesn't care about anyone, and Voss is doing what he can to please him, either because he has no one else or he has no other choice other than death. He goes on to point out that he wishes that Voss cared about Jason Brody because, quite frankly, we're all fucking all of this shit up. Hoyt later says that a village called Barristown has a bunch of Rakia allies, and they stole some things from him, specifically a transportation manifest that of course means that we need to go there. Once we get to the place, we understand now that Hoyt is there and that we need to wait until he leaves, or else he will kill our friends, I guess. Way to raise the stakes. I'm only kidding. There really isn't any other way to raise the stakes in this mission, so I'll let it slide this time. But regardless, once the sympathizers run, they're in the minefield, so they die anyway. So what the fuck? Then there are no stakes being raised. We can just kill Hoyt right then and there. The game is suffering from we can't kill the antagonist yet because of game time syndrome. The simplest way to avoid this is to literally not have Hoyt there and just let some high-ranking pirate take his place during the mission. Whatever, I guess. We see one dude who for some reason doesn't get his ass blown up, and of course that is the guy we need to talk to. And once we approach him, we ask how he can help us find our friends, and of course he says no, explaining he needs to get to the village. Fine, man, fine. Jesus. To keep it short, we go through one of the most broken, most irritating escort missions of my life. You can barely see the mines. It is god-awful combined with gunplay. Once we get to safety, we find the transportation manifest. We snapped a picture of it so we can send it to Agent Willis. Willis tells us where Oliver is being transported and that he's sending the location, and off we go. Man, this really does seem like one of the biggest fetch quests at the moment, and I mean, if you look at it, it really is a fetch quest. Anyways, once we get there, Willis tells us that we are too late. Christ. Can we ever be on time in games? Regardless, we get into the car, and it was a time trial. I hate these usually, but this one wasn't that bad. Except I fucked up a few times driving, but nothing serious. And after that, we find a conveniently placed sniper rifle laying on the rocks and shoot all the pirates until Oliver can get into a boat free from captivity. We do a cool ass jump off the rocks and get into the boat to drive off. We man the gun and fucking annihilate all the pirates that are staying in our way. And I love this mission except the sniping. Either a sniper bullet can't shoot one of them, or I just whiff the shot completely. It's either a case of me being bad or the input delay is awful. We talk with Oliver for a bit, and I guess that his dad was going to give the pirates a ton of money. That's rough. Oliver would have been sold anyway, and yikes. Oliver takes this news hard and is having a tough time dealing with everything that's happening, as anyone would. And I feel for this dude, even though this is mostly our first time meeting with him in game. Jason consoles him and takes him to the cave with the rest of our friends, and when we get to the cave, everyone is so happy to see Oliver. But then Dr. Earnhardt just strolls in high as fuck and not caring, and it made me die laughing during this serious moment. Lisa then makes a cross for Grant, blah, 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 blah. It was kind of a sad moment that was cut short when Lisa asks to talk, and Jason dismisses her. Jesus, you don't have a couple minutes to talk to your girl? I feel bad for Lisa having to put up with this dickhead. She's genuinely worried, and he doesn't care. Fuck Jason at this point. She even says, I love you, and he doesn't say it back. We find ourselves to a shack with a man inside having a drink with no clue what his name is, but we did see him in our vision when Sintra handed us the hallucinogenic. Jason says he's looking for his friend Keith, in which this individual has. The man dismisses it and tries to walk away. What a punk. I already hate this guy, by the way. He talks to me. He then continues to make fun of Keith's screams. Fuck this dude. Oh my God. After this whole conversation, I noticed the tattoo on him, and it says Buck on his chest. This guy is so self-centered that he gets his own first name tatted on his chest. That has an open shirt to show it off. Bro, he shows us a picture of the knife that we saw in our hallucination. He wants the same knife that Citra wants, and at this moment, I thought there would be like a choice between giving the knife between the two, but no, they don't fucking do that. So anyways, he tells us that if we give him the knife, then Keith can come with us. And why do I have the feeling that he won't live up to his promise? It's because he fucking won't. To keep this wild goose chase short and sweet, since you do the same mission 3 times in a row, pretty much you meet this dude constantly at the beginning of a mission, and then at the end and in between, you'll fight enemies and go into a section where there's no enemies, and find parts for a special compass, then run out. Finally, on the last one, you'll find the knife, and it was just the worst mission structure of the game so far. And I know how I said it and structured it sounds confusing, and it's because it was confusing. Anyways, we just keep going from one mission to the other, and it's so annoying. When you finally get to the knife and bring it to Buck, he demands that you give it to him. Jason pretty much says, "Fuck you, thought," and says that he needs to hand over Keith first. Hell yeah, Jason, take some initiative. But sadly though, Jason gets double-crossed, as Buck's intention was to kill you while you were consoling Keith. A lackluster boss battle then ensues, where the only thing that happens is fucking quick time events. Really? You have this build up with horrible missions and you finish it off with a quick time event boss battle? This happens with all of the main antagonists too, and I hate this kind of stuff in video games. Give me a challenge. Don't pussy out and do a quick time event. Through all of this though, I do feel bad for Keith. Man got SA'd, and you can see it got to him understandably. You start to understand that this game is fun in a certain standpoint of how many things you can do, but once you go deeper, this game can get you in your feels and make you ponder on shit. Now, sorry for the tangent, but I have to hand it to Ubisoft on this one. We take Keith back to the cave where he can be safe along with our other friends. He asks us not to tell anyone about what happened, and of course we agree. Seriously, dude, I feel so fucking bad for him. He explains that he thought he could handle things like this, but he couldn't. Gotta admit, I almost teared up kind of hearing all of this. The world is really fucked up. He then, out of nowhere, gives us some bad news. He tells us that our younger brother Riley is dead, and that he tried to escape, but they shot him. Damn. It's a really dark section of the story right now, and Jason, of course, is hurt by this. He vows to kill both Voss and Hoyt, finally putting himself in the revenge mindset. And I won't lie, I fell into this within the story. I wanted to defeat both of them after all they did to our friends, especially Keith. But then our girl asked us what's wrong, and we pretty much act like a douchebag again to her, and at this point I started to not sympathize with Jason again. I know I said I felt the same as him like a minute ago, but after he acted the way he did to Lisa, just irritates the shit out of me. She's trying to help you, and I'm not sure if this is either excellent writing or horrible writing. Maybe you guys have an answer in the comments. I guess it could be both. So now, since we're in the middle of the game, I think it's important to transition into gameplay and open world for a brief period, and this won't take long considering I don't like it at all. Like I said previously, it's god-awful input delay. It can't be my controller or console, because when I boot up other games, it works fine. I'm not even sure how people can like the combo when it's so fundamentally broken. Sure, you get used to it after a while, but at the beginning of the game, it was fucking brutal to play, and I almost quit. Even when you do get acclimated to it, it's still shit, because even then, you still notice it. The only way I could keep going through the game was to ADS and lock on enemies via aim assist. Kill the enemy, then quickly get out of ADS, then repeat the process with other enemies. Similar to how Red Dead Redemption works with its combat system, except Far Cry 3 is miles behind. To keep going off of what I don't like in the game is the fucking driving, especially the ATVs. You can't control them because of the input delay, and by some miracle you can control it. Steering is so finicky to where you will drive off a cliffside without meaning to. And when you do that, your car will explode, so then you have to walk all the way to your next mission because no cars would spawn. It's almost like they don't want you to have fun in the open world. And to briefly touch on the skill tree you're presented with, you have 3 paths. And to fully complete it, you have to do certain challenges to go along with it. But for the most part, it really isn't that deep. It isn't like a hardcore RPG from the likes of The Witcher 3 or Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where it's crucial in those skill trees to put your skills and points into. So for the sake of that, I'm not going to spend too much time on this and move forward. I guess I'll talk about some good things though. I mean, the towers weren't all that bad like I thought they would. I thought they'd give me like the same layout every single time, giving me PTSD to the Halo video where everything was copy paste. But every tower is different. when it comes to navigating and climbing. And like I said before, you get rewarded for doing this. You get legit free weapons. So instead of buying weapons, I just did the towers. Yeah, I mean, sure, it fucks up the in-game economy, but at least it gives you a reason to go out and complete these radio towers. This also brings me to hunting and gathering supplies. If you don't look at the terrible gunplay, it's actually quite fun and rewarding. Depending on the animal and how many animal skins you collect, you can upgrade your supplies, satchel, ammo bag, holster mount, and so on. There's an actual sense of progression with this, and I love it. Especially the ammo pouch upgrades. You start out with jack shit when it comes to ammunition, but when you upgrade it significantly, you can get hella and not worry about it ever again. This is one of the bright spots when it comes to Far Cry 3. And you also get a wingsuit later on in the game, as well as being able to fly a fucking hang glider. That is so fun, you have no idea. But the main takeaway from this is that it's very flawed. Very, very flawed. But even with that in mind, it can still be fun. The open world has so many fun activities to do, most of them aren't even missions. Even with the god-awful driving, there were some instances where I was just laughing out loud because of the wreck I caused and explosions happening out of nowhere. This is what Far Cry is known for, and I hope they keep this going for future titles. It is also great to see that they fixed the fucking gunplay issue, though, later on in, the later games. But then again, though, going off of the script, I still can't get over the fact that your input delay for your controller is just so god awful to the point where you just don't want to play. I mean, I said this at the beginning, but going back to that point, it kind of takes the good things away because that's the main draw to Far Cry is the guns, the gunplay, how it works, and it just doesn't work in this game. So I don't think that last part that I said means much in regards to the rating of this game. Anyway, back to the story. After we did those tasks for Buck and kill him in the end, it is time to give the knife to Citra. And once we get to the temple, we're greeted by Dennis, who is excited to see us again. And out of nowhere, Citra approaches and asks for the knife, and of course, we give it to her. And at this point, I had a bad feeling with no real explanation as to why. Citra hasn't done anything wrong at this point. Maybe it's her mannerisms or her tone of voice, who knows. She explains that the blade has spilled the blood of her ancestors, that it has been conquered and the dead have been avenged. Now, this part of her speech was never elaborated on further in the story. It was kind of a castaway with no real explanation as to why. I wish they would have fleshed out this lore a tad bit more. She asks us to come with her and has her guards not follow. Oh shit, we getting it on. No, that's not what happens. Sadly, she asks us what we desire, and Jason of course responds by saying he wants to save his friends. But she presses further, asking if that's all he wants, playing into the idea of choosing friends or revenge. He responds by saying he wants to kill Voss and Hoyt, giving into revenge. I would say I hate this point of view for a character, but it works for Jason. The dude saw his brother get killed and had to rescue his friends, or else they would have got sold to the black market. He had to go through hell and back, and Voss was the one causing all of this. I mean, I'd want the same as Jason if I was in this position. After we give an answer, she tells us this long-ass story that really has no meaning within Far Cry 3's overall narrative, so I'm gonna skip over it. It just tells the tale of how people became warriors and how they got the Tatau. I mean, sure, it's interesting, but there's no use in putting in the critique. She tells us that another giant has risen and we need to prove that we're worthy of the Tatau. In my opinion, I think fucking already proved ourselves by destroying entire camps of enemies, doing every fucking job that the Rockyat should be doing, and successfully doing it solo. Like, we've done everything. Like, I fucking proved everything you fucking talked about. I mean, I'm getting heated. Let's just move on. Afterwards, Dennis confronts us saying that an attack against a convoy is being planned and that he needs us, and of course he does. The plan is to ambush them at a place called Churchtown, and that they're happy to help me. Of course they are, dude. I do all of their fucking work. They don't do shit. Anyway, we make our way to the church at the town, and we're greeted by a random Rockyat warrior messing around with some C4. He tells us that we need to plant the explosives in order to block the road so that Voss and his convoy will stop. Why don't we just wait until Voss passes over the C4 and blow it up, ending him? Why is it we have to block him? This is a writing oversight that pisses me off. Just come up with a different way to block the road. Regardless, we take the C4 and plant it on a tanker truck filled with gasoline. Even more of a reason to wait until Voss passes by and killing him instead of using it to block the road. I don't even know. But once we make our way to the water tower for a vantage point, Lisa calls us. We kind of brush her off, but she tells us, you know, the boat is coming along good. And she asks when we will be back. Jason literally brushes her off like a teenager when he gets a call from his mom when he's hanging out with his friends late at night. His attitude is so annoying, and I can't stand it when he's talking to Lisa. The reason being is because he barely knows Citra within a couple days. He changes his whole attitude in order to please her. We barely have seen Citra. So why is Jason all of a sudden doing whatever she asks? For revenge? I mean, sure, but does that mean be a total dick to your girlfriend? I just don't like the direction they're going. Like, I love the revenge path, not the be a dick to my girlfriend because this other girl's hot direction. Like, it's stupid. Regardless, we get to the top of the tower and pretty much just try and defend everyone from unknown enemies that seem like a private militia. And once we sniper everyone, the convoy drives off and we have to go after it. Once we catch up to the convoy and take out everyone, we open up the hatch doors to the convoy and surprise, it's Voss. And he knocks Jason out. And once we wake up, we get greeted by the infamous saying by Voss. And I'll let this cutscene play out in its entirety. There's some weird frame drops in the recording, so I'm sorry for that in advance.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy. But the first time somebody told me that, I don't know, I thought they were bullshitting me, so boom, I shot him. The thing is, okay, he was right. And then I started seeing it everywhere I looked. Everywhere I looked, all these fucking pricks. Everywhere I looked, doing the exact same fucking thing. Over and over and over and over and over again. Thinking, this time, it's gonna be different. No, please. This time, it's gonna be different. I'm sorry. I don't like the way you are looking at me. Okay? You have a fucking problem in your head. Do you think I'm bullshitting you? Do you think I'm lying? Fuck you! Okay? Fuck you! It's okay, man. I'm gonna chill here, man. I'm gonna chill. The thing is, alright? The thing is, I killed you once already. And it's not like I am fucking crazy. It's okay. It's like water under the bridge. Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Oh, Jesus. No.
Oh, fuck you!
Once we get out of the water, we have to sneak around a camp and kill some of the guards. In other words, we massacre the entire camp. We got into a helicopter manned by a pirate and told him that he needed to drive the heli, but soon after we got shot by a rocket and crashed. See, why did we have to go through the whole segment just for the chopper to crash? You could have done something a lot more dramatic here, but instead you just made the player go through all of this work. Keep in mind, it wasn't easy, just to say, fuck it, this seems cool. Jesus Christ, it pisses me off, especially since I died a lot of times. Regardless, we wake up to Voss, walking towards us all menacing-like with the gun in his hand, about ready to cap us. But before he does so, he says the phrase one last time, "Do you know the definition of insanity?" and shoots us. But since we have plot armor, of course we aren't dead. So Jason wakes up and claws his way out of dead bodies that are thrown on top of him. Of course, Jason gets freaks out. He gets buried beneath all of the rocky out warriors that were fighting beside him. And this got dark. Right after we see Dennis, he is surprised that we lived. We show him the bullet that hit his trusty lighter, and damn, what a coincidence. I don't buy this, but I guess I have to go along with it, to be honest. I mean, this story is just getting worse and worse as we go toward the end, but you know, whatever. Anyway, you can't do anything about it, like I said, so it has to be passable. This story is getting grounded and dark, but yet the story knows not to take itself too seriously. The game isn't The Last of Us or God of War. I understand that. And Farcry knows its identity. It's a laughable, serious video game, if that makes sense. So I guess it's commendable. I don't agree with how they're doing things, but you know, I just have to live with everything that this game throws at me. I'm going on a tangent and I'm probably repeating myself, but this game is not making me happy at the moment. Anyways, we go back to Citra where she says that we need to follow her and that it's time. She makes us drink this poison and says that the only strong will survive. It's poison. It could kill anyone, but whatever. We drink the poison and go into this weird, easy boss fight that isn't worth mentioning. But regardless, after we defeat the monster, we get greeted with Citra butt-ass naked. Yeah, I'm gonna skip over this part. I don't want to get hit with the community guideline strike. I mean, I could blur it out, but I don't want to. I don't want to edit that in. I'm just gonna cut it out. Especially since nothing is worth mentioning besides her saying that Jason's a warrior. And we already know that, but after this happens, we go on a manhunt for Voss. We go through this crazy-ass sequence of annihilating an entire base of enemies, trying to make our way to Voss. While doing such things, you can hear Voss trash-talking so much, yet you can't see him anywhere near the carnage. It's hilarious. He pretty much says that we are doing all of these things for nothing, considering it's all in the name of Citra. And once we get to the place where Voss is supposedly at, he stabs us out of nowhere, and I guess Jason goes on an acid trip. This part of the game I don't understand. Is the knife laced with drugs? Is it magical? It's never stated what happened, and it kind of pisses me off. It's a subjective art direction with the story, but I still don't get it. We go through this weird sequence where we see Jason putting a gun to his head, Voss and Citra pole dancing, Voss and Citra going at it. Wait, give me a minute. They're siblings. What happened? I'm confused. Okay. Whatever. Anyways, we have another quick time event boss fight that's really stupid. End up killing Voss and waking up near Citra. I don't know how we got there, but this whole thing was weird. Citra gives us some backstory in Voss and how Hoyt essentially brainwashed him into joining him, and that's how he became a monster. For some reason, I think Citra was the cause of it, though. I mean, whatever, though. We promise Citra that we will finish what we started and kill Hoyt, setting us on a wild goose chase that honestly gets nowhere close to Voss's story arc and honestly seems like filler until we get to the very end, which sucks. I was kind of enjoying myself up to this point. I mean, I know I said I fucking hated the game, but there's hints of, you know, bright light, you know. At this point, after Voss died, I wanted the story to get over with. After we meet with Citra, we head over to a drunk Dennis who doesn't seem like he's all there. He talks about his backstory, about him being a mechanic in the States, and then afterwards Citra saves him and all this in that. Now, for the sake of the video not being astronomically long, as well as not boring you with not up to par story details, I'm going to speed through the rest of the game's narrative. As I've said before, literally all of these missions are meaningless until you get to the point where you're facing off against Hoyt. And to start, we meet up with Agent Willis again, get in his plane and parachute/wingsuit like a badass back down to the island. And after, we need to meet with one of Willis's contacts at a poker game. He's some traditional ass bald dude who's over the top about everything. We essentially meet with him to find a way to get close to Hoyt. The bald dude who we are meeting with is part of Hoyt's private army, as we've encountered before. And once we do this, we do these boring as fuck missions, such as rampaging through an enemy base, blowing up shit, and disguising yourselves as an enemy soldier in order to get close to Hoyt. Although these missions sound good on paper, through all of this, I was just wanting the game to be over because I only cared about Voss. The game never does anything in order to delve deep inside Hoyt's psyche. They only do the stereotypical, I'm a bad guy that does bad things shit. It's irritating and it's not good storytelling. If you want a villain to be successful at keeping the player engaged, you need to make said villain relatable. What is the villain fighting for? What's the driving force? You get none of this with Hoyt, which is why I'm speeding through this. I never gave a shit about him. Regardless, after all of this, we get close to Hoyt and he tells us we need to interrogate someone in order to gain his trust. I guess? And once we get down to the basement, of course the prisoner is our brother. I saw this coming from a mile away and I'm not surprised. I guarantee you that Ubisoft was hoping for the player to lose their minds over this, freaking out, but in reality, I was just sitting there saying, damn, that's stupid. It's like they do the most traditional reversals ever, and they think they're experts at storytelling. Like, no, you're being basic. I think I'm just still pissed at the fact that after you kill Voss, the whole game goes to shit. But regardless, we interrogate him, pretty much acting for the camera when it shuts off. We tell Riley, our little brother, everything, and that everything's gonna be okay. Blah, 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 the stereotypical shit. You can already guess that Hoyt isn't buying this. We can see this from a mile away. It's annoying, and I'm skipping ahead. We meet with Hoyt for a poker game, and after doing all of these deeds in order to gain his trust, while playing poker, Hoyt will give these random-ass statements hinting that he knows what we've been up to. And shortly after, he stabs our bald friend in the neck. Yeah, I'm starting to dread this game. The final section of Far Cry 3 is some of the worst storytelling I've ever seen, using every cliche known to man. It's insane. We keep playing poker to entertain Hoyt, and soon after, he chops off Jason's finger, torturing him. And right after, we get up in this weird hallucination again, where Jason goes insane and a boss fight starts. And it's the quick time event, as you would expect. And eventually we kill him. And once we snap out of our little blackout moment, we see countless dead soldiers, implying that we fucking went apeshit and murdered everyone in the room. And after we had killed everyone, now is the time to rush over to the airport where we were told that Riley is being held. And after causing a massacre, we finally save Riley, jump in a helicopter, shoot baddies with a minigun, and make our way to Dr. Earnhardt's place. When we get there, we see the entire house is engulfed in flames. We see the doctor laying on the ground with a puncture wound dying. He explains that he couldn't stop the jungle warriors, essentially saying that Citra's men is what caused all of this and took our friends to the temple. Now at this point, after you make your way to the temple, you're presented with a choice. Either cut your friends down or side with Citra and kill all your friends. Yeah, I saved my friends. After all the hard work I put into everything and saved everyone, do you really think I'll just throw all of that away for some puh? I mean, I thought about it, but still no. This choice was very odd to me. You never get attached to Citra. She's done nothing for you except say that you're her warrior. The writers could have done something amazing here, but instead they wasted Citra's potential. There were no missions with her actively involved. She never tells you her backstory, and she never does anything for you to trust her. She only gives you false promises. The whole warrior thing doesn't mean shit when he can tear through an entire camp before meeting her in the game. It's wasted potential, and I can't forgive the game for that. But regardless, we still cut her friends down, and Citra cries saying she loves you. That's it. Yeah, I don't know how she loved us. She only known us for what, maybe a couple weeks tops? Fuck the ending of this game. It's bad. Literally, after you free your friends and leave Citra, the credits roll. That's it. That's the game. No cutscene after, no talk with your friends, not even a resolution after you escape the island. The game just ends. It honestly feels like I played this game for nothing, and the ending was nowhere near worth the time and energy spent. Now, it's clear what opinion I have on Far Cry 3, but I do want to elaborate just a tad further. I'm not saying that the game is bad, I'm simply saying that the game has many flaws. The game is fun at times, the open world has many things for you to do, to the point where you'll get lost for hours. The problems lie, though, with its gameplay and mechanics and story. As I've said before, the gameplay is fundamentally broken because of the input delay on console. Maybe it's just mine, I'm not sure, but it still ruined my immersion and fun most of the time. It got to the point where I would have to take long breaks from the game in order to not put a hole through my TV. And yes, I would have bought it on PC, but I already had it on PS5. I'm not gonna buy it again, sorry. Keep in mind that I was playing the Classic Edition as well, which means this game was ported over to the PS4 and Xbox One. They could have easily fixed the input delay before releasing the game, but they chose not to. And it shows how they care for their games. They only want to make a quick buck, and it's ridiculous. Also, the story's lackluster after Voss's story arc. Hoyt's personality is so bad to the point where you don't care about him and you just want to get the game over with after putting down Voss. He has no engaging backstory, no driving force, and no fiber in his body that is likable and or relatable. He is a terrible villain in my opinion. But regardless, I think it's time I give my final verdict on the game. And before I give that verdict, let me briefly go over the rating system. At the very bottom is not even close. And this means the game was nowhere near the title of masterpiece. Self-explanatory. Next is it has potential. This means the game is between good and decent. The bad and the good of the game both weigh the same in terms of which has more. Towards the top is amazing. This means the game was really good, but there are cons that can't be justified. Lastly, the best is masterpiece. This means the game is generation defining and will forever be cemented as one of the best games ever made. So now, I'm going to put Far Cry 3 in the not even close category. As I have said previously, this game has way too many flaws. It wouldn't feel welcome in any other categories. Yes, the game can be fun at times, and this doesn't mean the game is garbage, but it does mean that it needs massive improvement. When I played this game as a little kid, I felt the exact same way as I do now. It wasn't my cup of tea. I don't think Far Cry ever will be. It's just my opinion. But anyways, that about wraps up the video. If you like these kinds of analysis critique videos, please leave a like and comment what game you want me to do next. And feel free to subscribe and click that bell icon to get notified when other videos go live. Thank you everyone for watching the video, and I'll see you all soon. See you later, homies.